Greetings, fellow ripperologists and anybody else interested in the infamous 19th century serial killer, Jack the Ripper, or as I like to call him, the Whitechapel Killer. In this video, I'd like to once again walk down Bucks Row in the footsteps of our two main characters, Robert Paul and Charles Allen Lechmere, Charles Cross, whatever you want to call him. The whole point to this video is to explore the kind of situation depending on how far Paul and Lechmere actually were, Let me explain. Scenario 1. Lechmere is about 5 to 8 minutes ahead of Paul, and he has either come across Jack the Ripper's first recognised murder victim or killed her himself. I say 5 to 8 minutes based on Lechmere leaving home at 3:30 AM and arriving at the murder scene at around 3:37 to 3:40 AM. A good 5 to 8 minutes before Robert Paul, who incidentally was late. And if he normally walked down there on other nights, then maybe he would walk past the scene at an earlier time. Lechmere probably walked that route to work quite often himself, but apparently neither man knew the other or had ever met. Now, I don't know how true that is, maybe you can let me know in the comments. Now, number one possibility based on what I want to talk about is based on being 5 to 8 minutes ahead. Lechmere finds the first victim. This one is regarding Lechmere being possibly innocent, right? He sees something that he's curious about and finds it a woman. He finds that it's a woman lying on her back, He goes over and sees what he can see in the dark and possibly can't make out properly what he's seeing unless he sees that her eyes are open. Don't forget that mortuary photo that shows Polly's eyes open, If he sees that, it would be quite creepy and would alert most people to realise that someone lying there motionless with their eyes open but absolutely still would make them go and find the nearest police officer, surely. I know I would. In other words, by the time Paul was walking up there, and perhaps the area might even have been cordoned off by police if Lechmere had done what you'd expect an innocent person to do, right? And an alternative route would have had to be planned by Robert Paul, and no signs of Mr. Cross Lechmere, standing there in the middle of the road or wherever it was where he was stood. We all know that if this 5 to 8 minute period is legit, then Lechmere still hanging round instead of finding a policeman. This is what makes him so suspicious to me. If based on this timing, then why the hell was he still hanging around? Because as I said, an innocent man would not have any reason to hang around, would he? It would quickly have become a police matter and not two guys checking on a murder victim. Scenario number 2. Two men at least 1 to 2 minutes apart. This is where you can very well believe Lechmere finding a dead body innocently was truthful, and no way possible for Lechmere to kill Polly Nichols in such a short space of time. And this would mean that the Ripper killed her but had a guilty conscience and went to the trouble of covering the abdominal wounds up after he had killed her. Now, to me, this part is crucial to the case. So far, nobody's given me a good enough explanation as to why the wounds were not left on display. She was on her back after all. He would have had to cut her open while holding her dress way out of his way so he could do it as easy as possible to satisfy his bloodlust, hatred or sexual need, whatever it was. But then, for some reason, he stopped what he was doing and he left the body not on display, then ran off into the night. Very unlikely in my opinion. You know what I'm getting at, don't you? This is why I cannot eliminate Mr. Lechmere from this murder inquiry based on being ahead of Paul by at least 5 minutes. And the body not left in the usual Jack the Ripper fashion. To sum up my opinions on this murder, in my honest opinion, Lechmere was 5 to 8 minutes ahead and killed Polly Nichols, but right at the end while cutting her abdomen open, he was startled by hearing another person approaching and covered the wounds as to not startle whoever it was and bluff it out. By the way, if he killed her then was startled by footsteps of someone approaching and his instinct was to run away, then why the hell would you cover up your work? I mean, if your only instinct is to run away quicker than Usain Bolt, then the last thing on your mind would be to do anything that would delay your escape, surely. Covering up the wounds in a flight scenario would have been out of the question, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? For instance, when I was a kid, we smashed some windows, then we ran like little bastards, right? And not once did I consider picking the bleeding glass up. You know what I'm saying there? Anyway, all I want to do with these videos is find out what I can, and if Lechmere could possibly be innocent, then I would perhaps let it lie and come to the conclusion that it will be never be solved, this whole mystery with Jack the Ripper, and who he was. Alright? So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm looking forward to some positive feedback, you know, not bullshit in this video. And I enjoyed it, and thanks to Hooks for this 3D graphic, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.